Hey guys, this morning we're going to be announcing the winners of the Sun Tzu and the signed copy of Operation Ice Storm. We've also got a ton of things we want to talk about, including Nagash and these Warhammer End days. Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome to the Weekender. Okay, so this week I'm joined with Sam.
Hey guys.
And Lloyd. We've got a ton of stuff we want to talk about. First things first, the end of this weekend, in other words, Monday, we're kicking off Infinity 3rd Edition week. So if you've been waiting for these 3rd edition rules, this is going to be your week, because we are going to do an overview of what to expect in the book. We have, I think, something like 6 days or something of individual kind of tutorials looking at new rules and things like that are going to happen. And yes, we even have a battle report, maybe two. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this. Infinity is one of those games that it's had quite a little barrier to entry. It takes a little bit for you to first get into it, but it's unnecessary because the actual core rules are very, very basic in Infinity, but the overall game expands very quickly once you get into it. It is a full-on game. That's hardly a very scientific term, but in my book, a full-on game is a game you could effectively devote your entire hobby to if you wanted.
True. There you go, Corvus Belly. Dump all your marketing material and just put on the front. It's simple, but it's a full-on game.
It's a full-on game.
I'm just hoping to see what changes my Hacker Slam have got.
Well, these are changes right across the board that we're going to see, but most of these changes are actually just they're changes that make complete sense, and I think that's what Corvus Belly were really aiming for with this 3rd edition of the rules, was to reset that foundation and make a series of changes to remove a lot of the grey areas and to make a game that was even more tight. And tournament players love playing Infinity. The independent the tournament system, or the Infinity tournament system, is a hugely popular scene. So it's already doing really well in tournaments. But off the back of N3, certainly from what we have seen, we're expecting it to do even better.
So what you're saying is that 3rd edition makes this an even fuller full-on game.
An even better full-on game. So, of course, it would be remiss of me if I didn't remind you that, to play Infinity, you need D20s, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that knows me knows that I like to charge my dice. I know you might be wondering what the hell that means, but it's very simple. You get yourself a laser pointer and you charge the hell out of your dice. Look at that! Look at that!
My eyes.
If you want to roll criticals, that's how you do it. You charge that bad boy up. And anybody that's seen any episodes where I have charged my dice, they'll see the effect that it has. It's unbelievable. So remember to charge your dice. Just in time for charging the dice, I got a few accessories from the Army Painter. Okay, so...
Yeah, you've been playing with these all morning.
Okay, I just love this, right? So this is the new Army Painter dice charger. They call it a marker light. Apparently these people are somewhat concerned about line of sight. Blah. This stuff is for charging dice.
It's very blingy.
It is kind of bling. I like it.
It's nice.
I like it.
Which is good, because it's harder to lose.
It looks like a bullet. Okay, a big shiny bullet. It looks like something else, but it's too early in the morning to talk about that. It's great. It's good quality. and the charge effect is fabulous.
Oh, my eyes!
The other thing they
Don't
sent
worry,
me,
according to Warren's logic of lasers, you'll now be able to see better.
All right.
the other thing they sent me, and I gotta say, I was chuckling my ass off about this, was they sent me a tape measure, right?
Yeah.
And I
Is
was
this the point where I go, ooh, a tape measure?
Ooh, a tape measure. That's exactly the point. And if you're wondering why the hell I'm showing a tape measure off on the Weekender, bear with me for just 1 second, because when I opened it up, I thought to myself, Bo, what the hell are you sending me a tape measure for? We have no shortage of tape measures here at
That's
Beast
true.
of War. However, as with all things, I thought, wait a minute, and I'll give it a go. So I played a game using it, okay? And it was then that I discovered the features of this tape measure, okay? So most tape measures, you pull it out and you flick the thing down, all right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how they work.
Nice and simple. But this is not like most tape measures, because this one has a button here and a button there. Now, I've got to say, right, this is how sad I was. I was pressing these buttons and looking for the laser beam. Okay? I did spend about 180 seconds just going,
What's going on here?
laser beams. Where are the lasers, man? Because, I thought it was a package full of lasers, and I thought, oh, they've built lasers into it. They haven't built lasers into it, okay? And before you get all disappointed, as I was at the time when I realized there's no laser beams in it, what they actually are for is for pulling out the tape, and then you press that, and it holds the tape in place.
Yeah.
See? I was letting go there to let you.
Yeah.
What's the one on the bottom for then?
The bottom one does the same.
And it's just what, a handier location for a particular.
This is exactly it. My initial thoughts were, why? What's that all about? But when I played the game, I was getting down, and I was able to get in, and it was just nice and handy. And I thought, oh, that is a lot handier than rolling that whole thing there.
But what about that bit? Does that still lock it as well without having to lock it the whole way?
Yep.
No. Does it not hold it? Oh, it does. Okay.
So it's as tape measures go, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It's a good build quality, and I do like these little extra buttons for holding the tape in place.
Though when we come back next week, I'm expecting you to have taped the laser marker to it.
I was going to say the only downside on this is I still can't hide my disappointment that those buttons didn't fire lasers, okay? so I was expecting. However, all was forgiven, because in the whole laser charging thing, okay, Army Painter are now my new best friend. These guys have saved me so much gamer time that I can now spend painting models.
Really? How's that?
Because before a game how long I have to spend charging my models, or charging my dice. I'm charging things up. It takes quite a while to get that epic charge into them, okay? What they have given me is the ability to multi-charge. So, everybody, I am now converting completely to translucent dice and using this bad boy here, because watch this. Multi-charge! Look at that! How awesome is that? Again.
Are we still recording?
I believe so.
So this gives me the ability to actually multiple charge all my dice all at once. They make some suggestions about what to use these for as well. I'll bring it up. So they have this picture about, again, checking line of sight between two models and things like that there. Yeah, it's all very well and good, but its purpose is for charging dice
or
epicness.
Or walking up to black cars and making them look like Knight Rider.
Wom, 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 wom. I've got to say, right?
Yeah.
I was so tempted to write back to these guys and say, can you send me maybe 4 or 5 more of these? Okay? I'm going to get a smoke machine. I'm going to put it into the studio, set up a single camera, and basically every weekend sitting here with the smoke machine on, waving my hands around with my laser beams. Oh, it'd just be awesome. And I think there's even the possibility that I can actually multi-target multiple cameras.
You're gonna blind everybody at home, are you?
Sorry if I managed to cut your head off with one of these things. It is cool. It is cool. So
It's a very cool little device.
Look at you big dope. He's got a laser in front of him and he sits and goes, ugh. You didn't press the button, but you're sitting looking at it.
yes, I was just looking at it just to see how they did it. I have no idea how they get a laser beam to go from that to that.
Well, it's like mirrors and stuff.
I don't know. Like little
And
tiny
magnets,
mirrors
how do they
and
work?
It's a bit, I don't know, lenses or something. Scientific.
Anyway, good quality stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that.
Do you think your dice get heavier when you charge them?
No. What happens is they stop sensing time. Okay.
Oh, you've frozen time in them.
Yeah, you freeze time within the dice. Okay, they stop sensing time and they gain awesomeness. Actually, this whole stop sensing. Well, this whole stop sensing time is Lloyd came into the studio early this morning with this whole palaver about. Did you know that photons don't experience time? And we went, what? He says, well, photons travel at the speed of light, and if you travel at the speed of light, time ceases to exist.
It stops. This is true. Apparently.
So,
And did you know that protons don't have mass? I didn't even know they were Catholic.
Speaking of mass, if that did charge up your dice and your dice could hold energy from it, they'd get heavier.
they would get very slightly heavier. I would imagine it, but firing lasers at anything, the only other thing that we could do that would be more cooler than that would be to try and find some kind of gamma ray thing that we could fire gamma rays at our dice. So,
I suppose your idea of all the smoke that sounded pretty gammy to me.
Anyway.
Any more puns?
No more puns. No more puns. So Infinity Week starts next week. Make sure, get out, get your dice charged, and be prepared for that one because there's a lot of crack on the way for that. On the subject of other things coming up, as you can see from the table, we are playing with our myth stuff.
Yeah.
This is because we are looking at Myth Week, which will be coming on the next few weeks. So we are getting stuck into our myth adventures at the moment, and we're having a lot of fun with that. It's one of those games that is very much like Infinity in that sense, in that those first few games that you play of it, you're going to be constantly kind of going back and forth to the rule book a little bit.
There is a bit of a barrier to entry in that.
But once you get into this and you start to relax about the game, you've got something quite special on your hands here. I've never seen a game that promotes teamwork like this one.
That
promotes communication among the players. So it is very, very good. So we're hoping to spend a week with you guys to introduce you to Myth and try and help in some way get you over those initial kind of steps so that you can more quickly get into the game and really get to the core of it, of what makes it so much fun. Couple more announcements.
Okay.
Carnevale have entered their final week.
Actually, it's not even the final week. These are the last few days. I think there's only 1 or 2 left.
Yes. There's maybe 2 days left. It has become quite exceptional value. Their top tier is something like maybe £500 or whatever for the very top tier that they have. But there's nearly £1,000 worth of stuff in it now. And even on the other tiers, there's free models galore.
The £50 tier has had so much free stuff added to it with every single stretch goal.
Yeah.
And some of the stretch goals are great. I love
some of the stretch goals. The first one that was of interest to us was this guy here, which is...
Di Furco and Buratino. I mangled that Italian.
To us metalers, he's just called the master of puppets.
And he's pulling your strings.
So this was actually a Beast of War prize. So one of our community members came up with this concept, and he's now been turned into full-blown art, full-blown profile, and he will be a miniature. And I believe he's going free to everybody in the Kickstarter.
Of the £50 pledge level, I believe.
Yeah. So the next one that I thought was fabulous is this guy here, the Nosferatu.
Count Orlok himself. and the Lacrimosa nun.
Yeah. Well, what I liked about this is one of the things that Carnevale are doing is they're doing vampires, as we know vampires. There's no weird take on them or anything like that. We're going to be talking in backstage about the new Dracula movie, which is basically Dracula become a superhero.
Yes.
But this is vampires in their core, and I personally think they're scariest sense.
Yeah, much scarier than what pops into my mind when you go vampires as we know them, because I sit here and think, peanut butter sandwiches.
What?
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The Count.
Oh,
what?
Sesame Street. He's always counting.
I love to count. Well, what I'm thinking of is movies like Salem's Lot and Dracula and stuff like that, where the vampire itself doesn't need to have huge magical abilities in order to be terrifying. The vampire is terrifying because of its relentless thirst.
But this guy here is very much the retro vampire. What's that movie?
Nosferatu.
The creepy guy.
Nosferatu.
Really old 1920s.
Yeah, Nosferatu. I own it. Yeah,
okay.
He's Count Orlok.
But this is what I love about it. What is terrifying about a vampire is it will not stop. It's not that that they've got magic fists and magic spells and stuff like that. A vampire, when it sets sight on its prey, will do whatever it takes to feed, and I think that's utterly terrifying. And the fact that you go hunting for a vampire, and it always happens, you never find him until nearly sundown.
Yeah.
That was one moment.
And why is that? Why are they always standing in a crypt about to smack a stake into some vampire just as the sun disappears?
Because if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
If you were vampire hunting, okay, and you only found the vampire when it was just coming to sunset, okay, would you retreat?
No, you'd run in there and stake it, wouldn't you? Because he's going to get you running
because
away.
He would get you if you don't. So you're far better taking your chances as opposed to waiting. Because if you wait, you're a goner. They talk about vampires in Volsung, where vampires lay waste to entire countries. Yeah. And it's the same in Carnevale.
That's what the whole story of the Strigoi is. The Dracula's been leading them through and has been obliterating entire towns and villages on their way past towards Venice.
So he's woken up because of the rift.
Rent.
The rent, as I understand it. And
this rent in the sky, this supernatural event that's in some way maybe connected to the old ones, the more Cthulhu.
He's travelling through Europe to get to it now.
Yeah.
Yes, he's now travelling to Venice.
And just wrecking the places he goes.
Well, he was wrecking the places he goes. Now in Venice, he's being a bit more clandestine. Okay, but he laid waste to Austria or something like that there on the way down through. And it's interesting because I spent some time in Romania. And Romania is a fabulous place. It's a fabulous, modern, vibrant economy. Bucharest is as metropolitan a city as you find in the world now. But in the rural areas, there is still some hangover, at least chit-chatter about Strigoi. You don't find it in the urban cities and stuff like that. They'll joke about it, and they'll joke about, people out in the rural areas, still having a little hangover. But Strigoi is a kind of a ghoulish vampire, and Strigoi is a Romanian word. And, I remember reading reports about them digging up bodies and burning the hearts and drinking the hearts and all sorts of stuff.
Drinking the ash.
Drinking the ash of the hearts. So it's culturally, the whole vampire thing is still pretty significant.
Oh, yeah.
And a very interesting one for you.
They don't play up on it enough, though.
No.
Because we were in Transylvania, and there's not a huge amount of vampire stuff there.
Yeah, but it's very kitsch. Do you know what I mean? It's They had looked at it creating a kind of a Dracula theme park.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a bit too far in one direction.
No, I think they should. I think that they should play up on it. Any country that has any possibility of creating a tourism industry.
That's why I said they should use it. I don't know if they should make a Dracula theme park.
Yeah,
I
think Bram Stoker just did a revolution.
If it was all just Dracula's castle and you were going through different parts of the castle, I don't like the idea of Dracula roller coasters and stuff. Maybe in the castle in the dark.
Well, there probably would have been. I think it would have been more like your Alton Towers type thing. But in terms of there is a Dracula themed hotel.
Yeah.
In a place, I believe it's near Bistrica. I think it is. It escapes me the name of the nearest town that's there.
It's not Hotel Meteor.
No.
What?
No,
it's a shocking hotel.
That was a scarier hotel even than Dracula's hotel. But I went to it and visited it, and it was quite a journey because I got a taxi to it. And he drove up, and you were kind of driving up through the hills and kind of a bit mountain-esque. And there is a fair old drop down the side. And there was I think it were gypsies or whatever were coming down in the horse and carts, laid it up with whatever it is they'd harvested at the time. And it really felt like that first scene in Bram Stoker's book, when Harker's on his way up to the castle.
Oh, I love that.
So you get to the castle and it's perched up on. I use the word mountain advisedly. It is it's a mountain to us. There's higher mountains in the Carpathians, far higher mountains, but it is perched up there. And you can go into this hotel, and they have all the different rooms, and it is really kind of Dracula-esque. And you can go down into a crypt. And as you're going down into the crypt, there's a hole in the walls where a guy will stick his arm out and grab you by the leg.
Oh, of course there is.
Somebody then slipped on my shite on the way down. Well, I was squealing. But I got down into the crypt, and there is a coffin there. And, you're just going over to the coffin, you look at him, whoa, he jumps out at you.
Oh,
it is utterly terrifying, but the best of crack. But it's, it is culturally... very significant at least in the rural parts, the Strigoi and stuff like that. But my point where I'm trying to get to is Bram Stoker, is an Irishman.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And do you want to know the first reported case of vampirism is actually in a town which is only about 10 miles from here.
Really?
It's a town called Garva, and the first report of vampirism it actually stems from Garva.
Really?
Where they had a vampire, supposedly.
If you've ever been to Garva, though, you'd understand it. There's nothing to do in that.
That's true.
But other than eat and feed.
Now, I studied the book Dracula back at uni, and the whole thing they kept telling me was Bram Stoker was using it as a metaphor for how mistreatment of the Irish population by the landlords and everything. I didn't care. I just wanted to read the book about the vampires.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that book people will look for anything new to say about a book. Let's face it, the book's really old. He wrote it about vampires because it's a really good, chilling story.
Yeah.
At the time that he wrote it, there was still a fair degree of belief in them supernatural type entities.
At the time he wrote it, there were a couple of vampire stories before that. I mean, you've got Camilla by Sheridan Le Fanu came out the bit before that, and of course Vampire before that, that.
So it's a fascinating thing, and I really do like to see vampires portrayed as vampires. It's I don't think we need to reimagine the vampire to make him any more interesting or any more scary. In terms of interesting, I'm going to skip one on here. Actually, this is the current stretch goal that they were working through, and here you see the newborn vampire.
That scares me. That is scary.
That's when a vampire has the least amount of control over the thirst.
Their most bestial stage.
Yeah, they just all they can do is just rip and shred and tear.
You see, that's what scares me about vampires and zombies. In fact, not the relentlessness, the complete
lack of control
and subhumation of your identity. That scares the crap out of me.
You're scared of zombies.
I'm terrified of zombies.
Zombies really does freak you out. Actually.
Yeah.
Well, this is that moment, and I think it's what's particularly striking about what this miniature will have is the decapitation. It's
Yes.
the fact that there's so little control that it wasn't just biting of a neck to feed. It basically just continued.
It tore someone to shreds.
Just this werewolves actually terrify me. And what terrifies me about a werewolf is the brutality.
Yes.
A werewolf portrayed correctly, and my personal favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time is The American Werewolf in London.
Yes,
because I believe that the portrayal of the werewolf was so spot on. Never mind all the special effects and the cinematography, which was absolutely fabulous, not only for the time but even for today. But the portrayal of the werewolf of not only about that sense of that loss of control, but the total brutality of the werewolf, and that absolutely terrifies me.
I believe it was you who told me about that movie. I went out and bought it. I've never regretted that.
It's great.
Fantastic film.
Anytime we're in London, I cannot walk through the subway without that sense of the subway scene, of being chased by the werewolf. I just think it's absolutely fabulous. This is a real kind of Halloween-y episode.
Yeah. We should have held this up for a few weeks.
The last one I want to show you is this one here, because I think we just have to talk about this. So probably one of the first things to terrify us when we were little kids clearly was The Wizard of Oz. Right?
I've never watched it.
What?
I've never watched The Wizard of Oz. No.
The Wizard of Oz, it's amazing, because as an adult, you'll watch The Wizard of Oz, and it's all very quaint, and you enjoy it, and you have a chuckle and stuff at it. As a child, though, I remember The Wizard of Oz being quite an intense experience, because I found the witch terrifying, utterly terrifying. Now I look at witches, and I find witches to be the least...
imposing?
Yeah, I find witches to be the least, I suppose, the least scary, the least imposing, the least believable. If you can imagine such a thing, how I would imagine a witch is less believable than a werewolf or a vampire. But at the time, I remember being utterly terrified of the witch. And when she unleashed those flying monkeys, absolutely freaked. Again, from that point, I think the scary thing was the numbers of them. The fact that there was a lot of them. And anything that kind of flaps out there has a certain scariness about it. Anything that scutters and anything that flaps. And to prove this, right?
Yeah.
There's a Polish team on YouTube did a fabulous stunt where they got a dog and dressed it in a spider suit.
Yes, I saw that. Oh, that was hilarious.
And they unleashed this dog in a spider suit on people. And, it's not possible for a spider to be that size. Okay, well, certainly in today's world, you can't do that. But when they unleashed that, people could not register the impossibility of it in their mind and absolutely freaked.
What's brilliant about it, though, is it's clearly a dog.
Yeah.
When you look at it calmly. But I suppose if it's running at you, there's no way in hell you see a dog.
You can't see a dog. All you can see is legs.
The best thing about it, I showed that to my girlfriend, who is a dog nut, but she's also arachnophobic.
Yeah.
So watching her watch that video was really entertaining because it was this huge sense of conflict.
Boy, the set is falling apart. Is
it face up?
Yeah, it's face up.
Face up.
But there are certain things that scare us.
Yeah.
Like that.
Flappy stuff.
Like things falling.
Yeah. And
It's a poltergeist.
If we're on the topic of scary movies, though, when you're a kid, Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Fantastic film.
Yeah.
Goes to very dark places after being such a light film to begin with, when there's little leprechauns and
the
stuff
Doulahan coming up in the carriage. Yeah.
Yes, but when it goes to the Banshee, I hate Banshees.
Well, there is a thing. Banshees are very culturally significant for this region. North Antrim, there's a very heavy Banshee culture. I remember my grandfather talking about Banshees and how he'd seen Banshees and stuff like that there. and utterly terrifying us as children with all this talk of banshees. Now, I think in part our susceptibleness to fear of a movie or a situation is a big part built on our own experiences. It's the whole concept of a banshee terrifies me, not because of the scariness of the banshee itself, which is pretty scary, but of what the banshee represents. The banshee's not the bad thing; she's the herald of the bad thing, and that is that double dunt that really kind of gets me on the whole concept of a banshee.
Not knowing what the bad thing's going to be.
Yes, there's that uncertainty, so...
Well, I can reassure you guys, unless your family descends from one of the main clans of Ireland, you probably don't have a banshee assigned to you. It's supposed to be, according to legend, you can only see or hear a banshee if it's assigned to your particular clan.
We'll have to find out then, won't we? But anyway, back to these guys here. This is the last piece on the Carnevale, which I'm really looking forward to. And this is the patricians of the Ospitali.
Yes.
No, it's the doctors of the Ospitali.
Yeah, doctors of the Ospitali.
Are getting flying baboons.
Well, it's not just flying monkeys, it's baboons.
It's baboons, the most vicious monkeys imaginable. Now they're apes.
It's absolutely awesome. And again, I wonder if we'll be able to field them in numbers.
Stitched and strapped.
Stitched and strapped. So, I don't know what the wings have come from, but it's a fairly intense concept, and it's I'm looking forward to it.
I find the Doctors of the Ospitali are the scariest faction in Carnevale.
Mm-hmm.
They are, but without doubt, the most sinister of them all. Even the vampires don't scare me as much.
To the Strigoi and the Cthulhu guys.
The Cult of Dagon.
Yeah.
Even compared to them, Doctors are the scariest.
Well, they are creepy. For example, they've got their crew mask and stuff. What's the mask called? Do we know?
I'm sure there's a name. It's a plague doctor's mask.
Yeah. But it's just called a plague doctor's mask, is it? I don't know. But that's what creeps me out about them, is they're actually based on
real plague doctors.
Yeah, real plague doctors who were creepy looking.
Yeah.
Really creepy. And what they did was creepy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I think it's a very interesting concept. I'm looking forward to seeing how it translates on the tabletop, because to me the scary thing about these would be, once again, if they were fielded in numbers.
Yeah, that.
It's that whole concept of being overwhelmed by crawly or flappy things. I
have to say, for this stretch goal, the other guy who's kind of obscured by the Achieve logo there is the Adventurer Noble from the Patricians.
Yeah.
And I play the Patricians, so I'm really excited about this guy because he's one of the only ones who can bring magic. Mm-hmm. And while I love the Patricians, that's the thing they lack, and the thing I've missed out on when playing Carnevale. Now I can use magic!
Awesome. Well, next week is another huge week in gaming, where we have another massive gaming show taking place, and that's Essen SPIEL 2014. Do you know where Essen is?
In Germany.
Well, do you know whereabouts in Germany?
In the middle somewhere.
Well, this is where Essen is, okay? So it's I thought, John, I'll take a moment just to show you guys where it's at, because if you don't make it this year, you might want to make it next year.
It's not really in the middle, is it?
No, it's over towards... if you lived in Holland or Belgium, you would just drive to Essen. In fact, it's so close that even if you were in London, you would probably just drive to Essen, as handy as fly to it. So it's near Dusseldorf, Cologne, so it's definitely over on that side. We'll go in a wee bit closer, actually, and you can see, so there's... I don't know where the main airports are. Something tells me that Dusseldorf or maybe even Cologne is the nearest airport.
I think it's Dusseldorf.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's a huge show. It has absolutely hundreds of attendees. This is a map of the actual venue itself, and all of those halls are basically just filled with exhibitors and stuff like that. So if you're into your board games, okay, as well, all our war games guys are going to be there. But if you're into your board games, this is the place to be. It is absolutely enormous, and only we have a baby on the way. I would have been there this year. Absolutely wouldn't have missed out on that. So if you're looking for another European show to attend, Essen is definitely the one that should go to top of your list. It is superb. Warlord are there. Mantic are there. Battlefront are there. Battlefront have some new stuff for Dungeons and Dragons. I believe is going to be available to. They also have some highly detailed resin miniatures for Firefly the board game.
Oh, really?
So I believe they have resins of the actual
Look at
ships.
you,
And
the
stuff.
way you really.
I love
your
Firefly.
They also have expansions for some additional gangs for Sons of Anarchy and stuff. It's going to
So Gale Force 9s,
yeah. So definitely, if you want to get access to some really cool stuff, you'll probably want to check out Essen. Do you know anybody else that's going?
There's Prodos who are going.
Oh, yep. Prodos are going. They have a new thing out. So they have, what is this? This is the Bauhaus starter set.
Yeah, new one. I think it's replacing the current starter set, and it's got whole new sculpts for the infantry and the walker. The walker's a major improvement, I think. And this new mounted commander to lead the force, which looks really sinister and cool.
Yeah. I actually have a picture here of the old starter set for Bauhaus. So, you can immediately start to see some differences. The shoulder pads. Yeah, shoulder pads are not as pronounced, or maybe
they're still, but they're not quite as long.
It could be the perspective of the render. Yeah,
but certainly the walker's looking more interesting.
Yes, there's definitely been improvements in that walker,
and the horse-mounted guy is pretty cool.
Well, that's one of the great things about the Bauhaus is the whole horse and cavalry type feel.
Yeah, they're the more European focus.
Very complicated,
Germanic.
Very complicated render though, guys. Very hard to see.
Yeah, it's there's a fair amount in that box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 standard infantry models, guy on horseback, and a walker. Available at Essen. That's a fair amount of stuff.
I do like the look of it, actually.
Yeah, you get a fair bit in their starter sets. I think I got even more in the Dark Legion starter set.
I like the pointy helmets and things.
The Hussars.
We have invited the guys from Prodos to come over and spend some time with us. So we're just getting the show season out of the way, and then hopefully we'll get those guys over and we can actually do some cool stuff on Warzone, because it is a top-notch game. It really is a top-notch game, and I'm a big fan of the mechanics that are behind it. They're very, very absorbing. Nice and simple to play, I've got to say. It doesn't take much to be able to get into it, but there's a real absorbing feel to the game mechanics, because although your guys are in squads, each guy's independent. And I think that really sucks you in even more into the game. This week, or this weekend, is Warhammer Fest. And our man Ben is there giving us the lowdown. So if you keep an eye out on the Facebook page, Ben should be uploading pictures and stuff like that throughout the day. He's going to be there for both days and try and give us some feedback on how it went. We were at the last games day.
Would you say this is a make or break year for it?
No, I don't think so.
But last year was just such a disappointment.
Last year was a disappointment. I reckon they've probably learned from last year. The very fact that they're not doing the same thing again suggests to me that they have learned from last year. There looks to be a lot more, sessions and one-on-one things that people can
Certainly, it looks less. Here's a big shop. Both the sessions and things like that you can go to, and all the seminars and things. And because it's over 2 days, I guess you've more time to actually go and enjoy a seminar rather than rushing to one thing only to hear briefly.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll have to wait and see. I have high hopes that it's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to...
Me too, because I'd like to go back to it at some point. Not next year, but maybe the year after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's... We can only wait and see. It's... I would imagine that a lot of people will still be going there just to get their Forge World kick. And the great thing typically is Forge World will often have a limited amount of stock of a brand new model or something that's going to be available there. So it's worth getting in on that Saturday morning. It's not Games Day. They have changed the name of it. And the impression I get, at least from talking to some within Games Workshop, is that there are changes afoot within the company. But change doesn't happen in a company like that overnight. But there is definitely some interesting stuff going on. One of which I want to talk about. We've seen these. These are some of the new kind of leaked shots of the latest release for Warhammer. For Warhammer Fantasy. This is a continuation of what do they call it? The End Times?
The End Times. The last set was the Nagash books and miniatures we saw.
So what are we looking at here, Sam?
Well, this is I believe the next expansion of it is going to be called Empire's Rot. Yeah. And it's going to be bringing us these Nurgle Blightkings. Which are big characters for Nurgle, toughness 5, 3 attacks. They're going to deal a lot of damage. Yeah. And they've got some nice models there as well. Some naff, some not as good as the others, but I still think they're looking pretty impressive for the most part.
I don't know.
The funny thing about these models is...
Yeah?
They always look a little bit sort of kit-bash.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
It's hard to do this stuff without it looking... You see, the reason is, of all the ranges that are out there today, Games Workshop is pretty much the best range for a hobbyist to do conversions and kit bashes with. And so much of it now has been going on for so long that even models that come out that have been designed from scratch, we'll have already seen things like it that have been kit bashed or converted by someone else. So I don't think that's necessarily something to say about the model, but it's probably more to say about the quality of conversions that people have actually been able to make over the years.
But look at the guy with like the crab claw thing going on.
Yeah, I really don't like that model.
It just looks stuck on.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the way it is. If you sprouted a crab claw, it's not going to look like part of you, is it?
It probably would look like it just stuck on.
Yeah, so alongside orcs...
No, I still don't like
this would be the coolest faction in the world for modding them.
Yeah, for modifying. I've got to say, what I'm really disliking, again, is the paint scheme on some of these. Again, it's really cartoony.
There's another one. There's one with like purple tentacles. That's the one.
This guy here.
This is, I think, what was it? Gutrot Spume, I think he's called. He's the special character for Nurgle in this set, who's going to be, I think he's leading the Blighttkings.
I don't agree with you. I absolutely love the colours.
Do you love the paint schemes?
The problem is it's extremely hard to do it. 99.9% of people trying to do that at home end up with hideous looking models. Because that's really, really hard to do right.
You should see one of my early attempts at a chameleon skink.
Well, there is a lot of blending and stuff going on in that. Maybe our buddy Duncan
I just think
will come out with a paint video to show us how to do that.
On the tabletop, it's such a nice thing to see an array of colours rather than just greens and dark browns and stuff.
Yeah,
but only if it's done right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can end up with miniatures that look like you've painted them with lipstick.
I've got to say, I haven't been a massive fan of the art direction that Warhammer Fantasies went in terms of the paint jobs. I'm not sure. I'm still very much of the trying to decide whether it's the sculpts that I'm disliking or the paint jobs of the sculpts I'm disliking, or is it a bit of both?
You don't do it for every faction. I'm just saying this particular faction here.
But everything that I have seen recently coming out for Warhammer Fantasy has been really, really cartoony. Like, I mean, really cartoony. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy my cartoons as much as the next guy.
Next fully grown wargamer.
But it's but there's something.
But what do you want from them?
I want it to be darker and grittier. But I suppose maybe that's what 40K's for. You know?
Yeah, well, let's. I don't know. Look at Myth, for example.
Yeah,
it's not dark and gritty.
Yes, but Myth has been designed from the outset to have that stylistic, almost like a video game kind of feel to it.
Warhammer Fantasy was never dark and gritty. It's always been.
Oh, that's nonsense.
Well, look at High Elves.
Lately, it's gone very dark and gritty.
But look at High Elves and stuff with their big, colourful dragons and stuff. For as long as I can remember, bang! Look at the colours on that army.
Yes, but now even the Beastmen look like they're wearing makeup. You know, that's maybe a bit harsh, actually. You know, it's I understand the High Elves.
One of the things you said earlier on was you thought that Warhammer Fantasy had lost its sense of humour.
Yes, I did say that. Yeah, a lot of it does seem to take itself too seriously in the fluff. I mean, I collect the old Warhammer Fantasy rule books.
Yeah.
And you go through especially things like the Dogs of War, and you can have a good chuckle about stuff like that.
So I just sit here and I think, you two are at odds. You want it dark and gritty, and you want it to be fun.
No, I like dark and gritty. I like it to be dark and gritty.
But how can it be dark and gritty
Because, you see, the general theme of the world, the general overview and atmosphere of the world is dark and gritty. But there are moments of humour in it that just break that up and relieve it and make it more fun.
Blood Bowl is in this universe, isn't it?
Yes,
it is.
And look how over the top
I think actually
that is.
I think technically Blood Bowl's supposed to be in a separate universe. Someone got at me about this in one of my first reviews. So, I don't know.
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, you know. But it's just missing a sense of realism. Let me change from dark and gritty.
But they're miniatures.
To a sense of realism. It doesn't matter whether they're miniatures or not. You know, it's I look at them. Okay, and I think to myself, it's too much cartoon. I would like to see a bit more realism, you know. But
we're just sitting on two different sides of the fence here because remember I haven't had any time to do it, but I've talked about it, building a samurai army and stuff for Warhammer Fantasy.
Yes.
And you were throwing out crystal dragonflies.
Yes.
They're like this size.
Yes.
And they look terrible. I nabbed them all up because I thought I'm going to put some samurai on some massive dragonflies.
Samurai flying around on crystal dragonflies.
Well, I'm going to paint them. They're not going to be crystal. I'm going to have to try and paint them up and look a little bit more detailed.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Well, all of this is all stemming from this Warhammer End Times, which I have been told, okay, people within Games Workshop, you know who you are, have been saying, you know, Warren, you really want to be looking into this, okay? This is a very, very big thing for Warhammer. Don't think that this is just just a series of campaigns. There's something very, very big for Warhammer going on here. So it looks to me, I don't know yet because I'm still going to dig into this, but my gut kind of tells me: are we looking at a potential reboot? You know, could we be looking at something that is almost like a reboot of the whole Warhammer Fantasy experience and the whole Warhammer Fantasy range? I've heard on the grapevine that we could be losing some armies.
I doubt that's happening, to be honest.
I would not be surprised if it was consolidated. I think that there's too many armies. Even I think there's too many armies within Warhammer Fantasy. I think it would be a much more collectible game and a much more enjoyable game if there were less armies, less spread, and more people more engaged in the armies that are left. I also think that like Bretonians and Empire, there's just too much crossover there to support two armies anyway.
But what are you supposed to do if you're one of these armies that got the axe?
Well,
are they going to roll these armies into it? Like you say, there's too much crossover. Do they become one faction?
Well, here's the other thing: is I would be absolutely astounded, like jaw dropping on the floor, if Games Workshop just killed a whole bunch of product line. They might, but the ones that I've heard potentially we could lose, and again, these are all from different sources, is we could be losing Empire, we could be losing Skaven, and we could be losing Ogres. Now, I was shocked at that because Skaven and Ogres recently got reboots. So, they recently got...
Skaven haven't for a while.
Well, Skaven got new stuff. Oh, yeah, it's been a while now. Skaven got new stuff, a new starter box. They got the bell towers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
but
Skaven
doesn't really interest me. The only thing that's stuck in my mind that came out ages ago was that big wheel.
Yes, the Doom wheel,
The Doom wheel. That's the only thing.
The hamster wheel of Doom.
It's the only thing that's stuck in my mind from them.
Well,
the Ogres don't really interest me because I think Ogres are just like a little thing off to the side.
Yeah.
They're
not core enough to the story.
Yeah, they're just a weird... Why an ogre should just be part of something else. They used to be an ogre army. They should just be part of another faction.
They used to be. They just used to be part of the Dogs of War thing, and you could hire a unit of ogres into your army.
Yeah. Well, Sam, what do you know about Nagash? I want to talk about what we've seen so far, and see if we can maybe gauge from that, the direction that things might go, or just as importantly, see where we're at today, and what's fun in fantasy at the moment, because a lot of us now have no shortage of games and stuff that we can play. We have more choice now than we've ever had, so it's easy to overlook something like fantasy where you've got a high model count. The rules are maybe a little bit clunky now. They've been kind of clunky for a while, where you're having to wheel and remove individual models and stuff.
I prefer the removing individual models myself, but yeah.
I prefer that as well.
What's changed?
I can't tell you much in terms of the mechanics for this, but the fluff has had some major changes in this end time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is, this really is the end times. They've declared things to be the end times in Warhammer fluff in the past, but they're actually turning around and going, no, this really is it. With even the Lizardmen Slan going, yep, it's going down, we're out of here. They've declared an exodus, which is something I despise. They haven't gone into detail on that yet, but my favourite army declaring an exodus of the world they've put effort into is something I hate. Bad move.
Now, what is an exodus then?
They haven't, like I said, they haven't expanded on what that is.
But are we talking like the elves, for example, in Lord of the Rings, who just get a load of boats and
that's what I'm thinking.
Into the sunset,
means.
Never to be seen again.
Yeah, that's what I think it might mean.
Now, let's put this into perspective. The lizard men are the oldest race in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, and magically the most powerful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. Well, they have the Slan, which are supposed to be magically the most powerful race in the world. There are specific characters.
Wait, back up and say that properly. In the world.
In the world. These are the greatest magic casters in the world. There are specific characters who can rival them, but the fluff-wise, they're supposed to be the best.
But it's this that they are the oldest race. These are basically like the old ones. Yeah. So they've declared an exodus. So
apart from that, we haven't heard anything more of what's happening with them yet. Yeah. The Empire the chaos is pushing further and further and harder. It's getting more dangerous to live in the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And to combat the spreading forces of chaos, Manfred von Carstein teamed up with Arkan the Black, which are essentially two of the biggest characters of the Tomb Kings and the Vampire Counts, respectively, and decided to raise Nagash back.
Now, who is Nagash? Nagash, the words were very exciting for a lot of Warhammer Fantasy players. For those of us that don't know, who was he?
Nagash is possibly the character who's appeared in miniature form, who's had the most effect on the Warhammer world in general.
Yeah.
He was the one who created undeath in Warhammer world. Before him, there was no undead.
Yeah.
He was a priest in the Tomb Kings back when they were alive.
Yeah.
And he decided never to die. And from his mortuary cult studies and learning dark magic from some captured dark elves, he created the laws of undeath. So it's from him the vampires, the skeleton legions, all of them come from.
Yeah.
So he is, without a doubt, one of the biggest single menaces the Warhammer world knew.
Where was he then?
He
died.
He did that again. He's been killed twice.
How do you get killed if he invented undeadness?
Well, he's undead himself these days.
Yeah. Don't confuse it.
Yeah.
All right. So he died, but he's undead.
Yeah. No, he got killed by a Tomb King, who was helped by some Skaven first, and then Sigmar came and smacked his bonce in later.
Now Sigmar is one of the kings in the Empire.
He was the one who founded the Empire and is now the god of the Empire. When he disappeared, they made him their god.
Yeah. Now, has Nagash been playable before?
Yes.
In Warhammer
Fantasy? Yes, back when the first individual rule books for the armies came out, Nagash came out with quite possibly the ugliest miniature Games Workshop have ever done. Wait, I just remembered the razor boars or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I'm always very reluctant in how we compare miniatures, because it's
this is one of their older ones. Have you seen this model?
I think I have, and it's for me it's a case of you never underestimate what the production guys are, the pressures that they're putting on the sculptors and stuff for these things. So, but anyway, he's been playable in the past.
Yeah, he has been. Yeah.
He then obviously was removed.
Yeah.
From the army,
but some items of his turned up among other heroes' item list and army books and the like.
Yeah.
So he still had a presence in the fluff and rules in some way.
Yeah. But now he's back.
Yeah, and it's a big thing as well. His return doesn't just mean the return of Nagash as a playable figure, and the miniature is about this big, by the way.
It is huge.
It is massive.
Yeah. And beautiful, by the way. It's an interesting...
I like it, apart from the massive hat. Yeah, it's a good model.
What massive hat? I don't remember a massive hat.
His head's about, regular size, and then his hat cut out for about good 2 inches.
Actually, we can bring up a picture of him here.
Oh, there he is.
So,
see, massive hat.
All right.
This is our buddy Nagash, standing beside a skeleton, so you can see how utterly enormous he is. Has it went into any detail of why he's so big, Sam?
Yeah, not from the Nagash book, but it actually explains in his original lore when he was chased out of the Tomb King's lands by a combined army of them. He ended up in the World's Edge Mountains and found a warpstone meteor and started consuming the substance and using it to fuel his spells, and it essentially warped him into this giant avatar of undeath.
Yeah. It's astounding, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
again, it's got all in bright colours, man.
Yeah, but, I rest my case. It's cartoony, isn't it? So it's
But like I said, his return doesn't just mean the return of him as a playable character.
Yeah.
It actually means a couple of big names in the fluff and in the game itself are disappearing.
Right. Well, wait. Now, what we're talking about now is this book here. Yes. Okay. So
this is the first in the End Time series.
Right. So he's back. Who else is back, or who's disappearing? What's happening there?
Well, in terms of who else is back, Arkan the Black, Manfred von Carstein, all of them have been playable characters for a while, but they've been updated in the rules and made his his lieutenants with special things. Queen Neferata is back as well, who was one of the leader of the Lamias, one of the first vampires.
Yeah.
She's back as a playable character as well, which is pretty big. But what's happened is, to summon him, spoilers, people.
It's been out for a while now. I think we're okay with spoilers. So
yeah, to summon him, Manfred and Arkan had to capture some of the big name characters from the fluff, like the Everqueen's daughter of the High Elves, weren't featured in the rules, but were there in the background, or the Queen of the Wood Elves, who was once in the rules. and they've essentially sacrificed them to summon the Gash.
No, that's pretty dark and gritty.
And then the Gash went off, and his first action was to go storm the lands of the Tomb Kings again and defeat Cetra, the leader of the Tomb Kings and their best playable character. Just outright defeat him for the first time.
Killed.
Yeah.
Dead, out of the game.
Yeah, I believe so. Probably, they've had dead characters in the game before, so probably he'll still be around as a playable character if anyone wants to use him. But from the fluff, at least, from what I gathered, he is dead.
I'm going to touch on this dark and gritty thing again. The stories that Sam is telling me sound pretty dark and gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that book looks so dark and gritty.
Yeah.
You know, they have lost the cartooniness on the book side completely.
Yeah.
Well,
The direction in the books are going
that's very
headlong.
different. Looking at that is very different from the direction of the miniature paints that I'm seeing at the moment. But it's so what else is happening then?
Well, it's not completely lost for the good guys, as it were. Empire's pretty hard pressed, and so are the dwarfs. And the high elves and the wood elves and everyone tried to stop this, and actually managed to at least cause a weakness in the Gash when he was summoned. But apart from that, funnily enough, the big surprise is for Bretonnians in the fluff. They haven't got any new rules or anything as yet.
Yeah.
But one of their big characters from the previous rules was a guy called the Green Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole story was Arkan the Black gave the King of Bretonnia help cast a spell on him so that he could on his son, so that he would never be defeated in battle, so that he could try and steal the throne from the King of Bretonnia. So his son killed the King of Bretonnia.
Yeah.
To take over Bretonnia, and just when he was claiming victory and was declaring himself King of Bretonnia, the Green Knight comes up, challenges him. He's like, "You can't kill me, I'm undefeatable." Green Knight kills him, takes off his helmet for the first time, and reveals himself to be the founder of the Bretonnian kingdoms.
Right.
I've forgotten what his name is, Guy or something like that. So now Bretonnia has its, essentially Sigmar for them is back.
Right.
And there's something similar has happened with the Skaven. The Skaven were getting it pretty tough as well, and the Council of 13, the heads of all the clans who were fighting amongst themselves, were they were arguing amongst themselves, like I said, and then from what I read, from what I gathered of the reading, the Horned Rat himself came down and took charge, which is their god.
Is their god, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what. That's what I got from I read. It was a while ago when I read
when
this.
I'm told that major events are taking place within Warhammer Fantasy, it seems to be that's the case. I wonder what they're setting up. You know, a reboot would make perfect sense at this stage because sales and players has been dropping in the game. Hopefully, we're maybe starting to see a rise in the player base again within the game, being drawn back in by this epic story with Nagash and the others. But clearly, if you're sitting on a franchise that's hemorrhaging, it's dying, it's bleeding out, it makes complete sense to try something very different, to do something a curveball left wing with it, to see where you can take it. So, maybe in the comments, guys, we could have a further chat about that. We'll be keeping an eye on the Nagash. You something more to add?
No, I was just going to say, if I got anything wrong there, guys, please say. It's been a while since I read this.
So we'll be watching this and keeping an eye on this, and we'll do a bit of digging to try and find out what else is potentially going to take place there. On the topic of undead, I got another little parcel through from Mantic this time, who, I've got to say, do one of the finest undead armies on the market.
I really like the Kings of War Undead.
Massive fan of the Kings of War Undead. Well, what they have released are a new Sci-Fi zombies. Okay, so I got a couple of sprues of these guys. So we have legs, torsos, all the bits and pieces. But let me bring up some pictures here, so as you can see just what it is that we're talking about. These are the Sci-Fi zombies. I think some of these guys would make fantastic Gene Stealer cult guys as well.
Yeah, that guy with that bald guy at the bottom left.
It's so what they come in this time is they've done these kind of crossover zombie things before. This is 2 sprues, absolutely built from scratch to make these guys. What's different this time is they have zombie soldiers. So there's soldier pieces in there, there's civilian pieces in there, and there's science and scientist pieces in there.
Okay.
So you can create a mix of zombie civilians, zombie soldiers, and zombie scientists.
You see, that makes sense. A zombie virus isn't going to be confined to just the soldiers.
No, absolutely not. The actual detail of the pieces looked great. I've got to say, I'm a big fan of what I'm seeing here, but they've been doing such great undead stuff now for a while. The faces is always a good one to check, and I really, really like the faces on these guys. I think that they're great, and you can see it better from the actual picture. They come in 2 flavors currently, so I believe you can get either a box of 25. Or you can get it in a mega box of 75, I believe, of these guys. And let's face it, when it comes to zombies, you can never have too many zombies. You really can't. Last thing I want to have a look at is from Ramshackle Games. Okay, Ramshackle had their Kickstarter where they were doing some vehicles. Okay, one of those vehicles is called the Battle Dog. Just double checking it, and this is it here. They sent us through some resin test pieces. Excellent. So I get to share them with you guys, so as you can have a look and see what the details are like. So here we have one of the tracks, and we have the rear of the vehicle and the front there. So the tracks, I believe these tracks actually go that way. It gives it a very kind of World War I kind of a look. Okay. There are a ton of weapon options in this little bag as well. So let me get the turret out first.
Yeah, I believe this can be assembled as not besides for the weapon options. It can be built as either the Battle Dog or the Poog, I think it's called.
The Poog. You mean the Pug, of course.
No, it's got an umlaut over the U. It's a Poog.
Okay, if it's got an umlaut, then it's a Poog. So here we have that piece goes there, and that would go in there.
You're doing well, Krypton Factor.
It is a real Krypton Factor, this. So, and I believe that we'll be going
Factor?
like
don't even start, Sam. You don't know what the Krypton Factor is.
Would go like that. I'll just balance that on like that. And now I can pull out the weapon options. It's a resin model. There's bits and pieces of cleanup that you'll have to do here and there. You'll see degrees of flash and stuff like that on it. It's to be expected with a resin model. You'll have a little bit of shaving with a knife and stuff, and that'll come off quite nicely. That just fits in there, and you can really start to get a sense.
Yeah. Now, the main body of that doesn't lie flat on the ground.
No, obviously that would be lifted like that to allow for the turning of the turret. There's also a Gatling gun. How cool is that? And I would imagine that's maybe some kind of a las cannon type thing there. So
sweet.
There's some other little
there
detail
was the
bits.
Plasma gun there for the Poog.
Of course. Look at that. So if you're playing a guard army, or I think it'd be very cool for orcs.
This is perfect for orcs. Look at all those rivets.
Tons of rivets, tons of bits and pieces. It has that kind of orky feel to it. Here are some of the detail pieces. You can see there's just tons and tons of little bits and pieces of accoutrements that you can put on.
You've got a little gunner man there. You can stick out the top.
Again, you can see the little bits of cleanup that you're going to have to do on these kits, but it's resin. What can you really expect?
It's very brittle, so it comes off easily enough.
Yes, yeah. The head swaps are pretty damn good, actually. So there's some of the heads that are available there. And then in this final one, we have the sponsons. Just open that up.
If you look at the image behind us, you can also get side panel variants where it's just flat armor. Yeah. I don't think we have that for this.
We don't have that one here, but you could get this like shirtson that you can stick onto the side. We actually have these sponsons, which you can have flamers and stuff like that in. So let me just move that out of the way so you have these different flamer options. Sponsons.
Oh, on the sides, of course.
Yeah, we'll go onto the sides, kind of like that.
Do you think at the front?
Yeah, well, the thing about a sponson is you can put it pretty much anywhere you want. So I would be tempted to put it over the top of that where the door is.
Let's move it all back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sponson there, and then your flamer in like that.
Would you consider using this for maybe your human army you've got going on?
Absolutely.
Your human army.
What I really like about it, the details on the tracks and stuff, it's a big, heavy, chunky model. You could split somebody open with that model quite easily. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it away.
Huh?
If you want to be in a chance of winning this model, all you have to do is comment below. Comment on beastsofwar.com. If you haven't come over and created a free account on Beasts of War, now's your chance. We'll be giving this away to one of our members on Beasts of War. So if you're on YouTube, we know you love just staying within YouTube, but hey, why not come across to beastsofwar.com? Check it out. Create a free account, post a comment on this video on Beasts of War, and bang, you'll be in with a chance of winning this cracking resin tank.
Do we have any other pictures?
We do. I'm going to show you some more. So that's it all weathered up. How beat up does that look?
This could work well in like a post-apocalyptic game like Warzone Resurrection.
It would. Yeah. It would work very well.
That would go well with the Imperials.
Mm-hmm. There is another one. Do you know the name of this bad boy?
That's the Reebok, isn't it?
I think it's
Wally.
The Reebok. Yeah. This is their flamer tank.
It's called the what? The Reebok?
I believe it's called the Reebok. And it's
or a Hebok.
Another awesome looking tank. It comes, look at that. 2 big fuel tanks at the back, and a really badass flamer at the front. This I think they're great. If you're looking something to field that's just a little bit different in your army, definitely go and check out Ramshackle, because this stuff is now going on general release. But remember, if you fancy coming across to beastsofwar.com, creating a free account, so as you can log in and leave a comment, and you could be in with a chance of creating that. As well as that, once you've created a free account on beastsofwar.com, we will send you a little email which will give you a link to try a 7-day free trial to Backstage. And Backstage is our kind of plus membership. It's like our gold membership, where you get access to some additional features on the site. Most importantly, you get access to a ton of additional content, like the Hobby Lab series, which is superb, and hundreds of individual painting tips by our maestro painter, Romain. We also have the Dust to Dust series in there, and the Tank God series. So if you're looking for some tips on how to paint, weather,
that's a good idea.
And make additions to this, like how to do your own weld lines, how to create cast metal effects and things like that, why not try that 7-day free trial? And if you cancel within the 7 days, you don't get billed. And it's all done by PayPal, and the cost is only £3.79 per month.
This would take it really well because John's doing like he's doing pigment stuff.
Yep.
He's doing sponging techniques for putting on
for chips and things like that. Yeah. If you're into your tanks, or you're into your terrain making, or you're into your painting, if you're into your hobby, basically, you'll definitely want to come over and check out Backstage. And hey, it's free for 7 days. You can check it out completely without risk. Okay, guys, we're going to call it at that. Tomorrow morning, over at beastsofwar.com, we have the XLBS, which is the extra long backstage version of this show.
That's where you get to see us three sexy fellas first thing on a Sunday morning. That's just what you want, isn't it?
We're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff, including this bad boy.
What the heck?
I've had a childhood dream moment come true. So, fancy flight, read your emails, okay? And get back to us. But we're going to be talking about, obviously, this X-Wing and some Star Wars stuff. We're also going to be talking about Martians and World War I for the most epic mashup you've ever seen. If you're curious, come across, create a free account, take out your 7-day free trial, and be sure to come and enjoy the Weekender XLBS, and we would love to see you there. In the meantime, big thanks to Sam and Lloyd again for joining me this Saturday morning, and a huge thanks to you for taking the time to sit and listen to us wax lyrical about all things horror. We will see you again next week, but until then, have a great week's gaming.